Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Grow business. Transform Gujarat.
A very good evening, warm welcome to everyone. And there are 3 sessions which are getting combined here. So we will just weave the questions around. Hiren, you and I, if I may have your attention, we'll just weave the questions around. It doesn't have to be one panel and then the second and third.
Yeah.
So if you permit, I can start.
Sure, you can go ahead.
Sure. So, India is the 3rd largest producer of electricity globally. And given the size of our economy and the speed at which we are growing, I think a 6 to 7% demand for the next 10 years is a reasonable estimate. I'm talking of the power demand. Another 5 to 6 years from today, that is by 2030, a 500 gigawatt target has to be achieved. There is a lot being discussed since the afternoon on 50 to 60 gigawatt a year. And when we talk about 50 to 60 gigawatt a year, there are several drivers for it. Today we have picked up 2 or 3 of them to discuss. One of the topic was discussed in detail by Dr. Jyoti and Pratyush and Bimal there. And I think the topic was beautifully covered, not only the challenges but also the solutions. So, congratulating on a very wonderful panel there. Coming to the second driver that we believe and we all know is a sustainable, reliable and a robust grid. And lot has been done in the last 2 years. A lot of traction has been seen in adding the battery energy storage systems towards the grid stabilization efforts. But still, a lot of it can be done by evolving the grid to become a smart grid, using solutions which are data-driven tools for decision-making, advanced predictions, automatic responses, IoT-based technologies, AI-based technologies, advanced metering. So there is, and I can go on about it, but it's not for me to speak. And I will start the first session on the grid modernization and adopting smart technologies to enhance penetration of RE in the network. And at this point, I would like to introduce Mr. Vineet, the Managing Director Distribution of CESC Limited. And if I may, sir, my first question is to you on how prepared do you think that India's existing grid infrastructure is to handle the intermittent RE resources, and particularly considering that the specific upgrades and the investments that are needed, picking up Sir's point, for the distributed networks as well. So how equipped you think we are today? And then, we'll move to the second part as to what can be done or what needs to be done.
Yeah. So again, I'll pick up the very nice point Rajan sir mentioned about the grid. How many highways you will have? And coming from distribution sector, let me tell you, I was in Delhi distribution earlier, in BSS Rajdhani. Delhi load, peak load goes up to 8,000 megawatts. And you know what is the lowest? Lowest is around 3,500 in winters. And this 8,000 is only for few hours or few days, few hours in a day and few days in a year. Now I'm in Calcutta, I'm in CSC. The peak load is around 2,800. But today the load is 1,000 megawatts running. So transmission network is like highway, very rightly mentioned, sir. Very good analogy you gave. You build a highway which is used only for 1 week or maybe 1 month in a full year. You spend crores of rupees. So is it correct? So I believe the India grid is very robust. The transmission grid, the distribution grid is quite robust. We have to only manage it properly. And coming from the distribution sector, because we are at the fag end of the value chain of sector. We are the cash box, and we are in touch with the customers. And I firmly believe, the whole profitability or whole viability of the sector, renewable, you take renewable or power sector, depends on the distribution. Because that is where you are, in touch with the customer, the consumer, the person who's consuming your power. So, and in the distribution sector, the tariffs are always sealed. There is no increase in tariff in many states. I've seen in Delhi, now in Calcutta also, for the last 7-8 years, no tariff increase. Costs go up. I have to build some more highways, like, existing highways. So from where the money will come? Yeah. So it is very important, I believe, the optimal usage of the national grid, the optimal usage of the distribution networks. Of course, while we are setting up renewable green plants, which are far off in Rajasthan, in Gujarat, so you need some dedicated highways to evacuate that green power. Maybe the nearest proximity to PGCIL, I think it was mentioned by somebody, grids. So we need to really integrate all this together. So evacuation of power from the parks, RE parks, is important. So maybe a highway is required. But in the distribution sector, I'll say, if we engage, and this sector, whole power sector, maybe we are not understood correctly. Unless and until you have an engaged customer, this sector cannot prosper. So there lies the whole technology piece. We should have, maybe smart metering is one, but smart metering generally is seen as a means to collect payments or loss reduction. No, I'll go beyond that. Smart metering has to be used for engaging with the customer. Customer should say, yeah, there'll be time, I'm sure. On the mobile, I'll say, I want green power from maybe solar, I want from hydro. There should be some option available. Secondly, demand side management. That's a major, major thing. 8,000 megawatt versus 3,500 megawatt. 2,800 megawatt versus 1,000 megawatts. So demand side management also has to be looked into from the distribution perspective, so that the customers optimally use the megawatt. There is a big skew in the megawatt and the MUs. You'll say, in Calcutta, I'm having 2,700, 2,800 megawatt. Not that doesn't mean I'm billing more. My MUs are much lower. So this skew has to be removed. That only can come through customer engagement, demand side management. A very simple example, I was telling my team yesterday that we should initiate some demand side programs. Say one house has 4 ACs, and this whole peak is because of air conditioning load in India. Can we have some sort of software or some sort of mobile app through smart meters that customers, there is a diversity in each and every house. All ACs don't get on at the same time. Maybe it will not lead to less cooling. So same way, diversity in the load is very important. These are small, small things until unless we do at the fag end, where the demand is coming, this highway problem will remain. And we are working towards that on the demand side management, on automation in the grid. We are already having a lot of technology-oriented things, like, flexibility in the grid, self-healing grids, AI/ML we are using. Yeah. So that is on the highway part. Now, second, coming to the renewables. As a distribution company, somebody said that distribution companies doesn't pay more. I can't pay more because my customer is not paying me more. Yeah. So that pressure will remain always. Even if tariff increase, that pressure will remain. So let's assume tariffs are not going to increase. Tariffs are not going to increase. We have to optimize our costs. And as a private distribution company, we focus on optimizing our costs on various fronts. Power purchase cost is one, topmost, because 70-80% contribution of cost is from power purchase. Our operation maintenance cost, manpower cost, efficiency, productivity, digital, all these things we are doing. We have, in our organization, CESC, recently we have tied up around 600 plus 250, 850 megawatts of power, wind and solar put together. But again, there are challenges. 250 megawatt, we had signed up 2 years back, but still power is not there. Again, same land issues and all those connectivity issues and all. So we had to have some ways and means that we optimize our demand. We have the projects which are faster in execution. PM Urhekar could be one example, because in most of the metros, the 80-85% customers are domestic customers. Okay, everybody doesn't have a rooftop, but maybe even 10-20% of that can have a rooftop solar under the Yojana. It can really shave off your peaks. Some discoms say that we'll lose revenue, but I don't believe in that. In Delhi, we had around 200 megawatts of rooftop solar, but doesn't mean our revenues go down. We are a cost-plus business, so even if revenues go down, doesn't matter. Cash flow is important for the company, for the cost-plus type of businesses. So rooftop solar could be one, and then RE power from the various plants at a faster pace could be another one. So these are the things which I think...
Good. No,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I think that's a very deep perspective. I have one more question before I move on. What do you think are the policy and regulatory interventions that are crucial to incentivize the modernization of the grid? Like what can help the private sector to contribute towards it? BESS is one thing that you talked about a little bit, but BESS, and apart from that, is there any other policy and regulatory initiatives?
First, talking about battery energy storage, of course, there are certain policies very recently introduced by government on the viability cap funding, but maybe they're not for private sector. Mostly government sectors are availing, those. So on the battery storage is one solution. I agree with the, in the past sessions also it was mentioned, because once we have a FDRE, because as a DISCOM I need FDRE, firm dispatchable renewable energy. I don't want spikes, because the moment you have interruptions, my whole power planning goes, 15-minute slot planning goes for haywire, and I have to buy expensive power from exchange, my costs go up. So as distribution company, I'm a customer of all EPC sitting here, I need FDRE, the firm dispatchable renewable energy, right? So either the EPCs put up their battery storage at their end and give me a load, what you call load following profile. In Delhi, we started a load following profile. Maybe the cost was a little high, but in the times to come, the cost will come down. Load following means the city load. Give me the load curve, give me the battery storage or renewable power based on my load demand, based on the curve. Every city has its unique curve. So either the renewable power developers have their battery storage at their end. That's the best part, so that we get power. Secondly, the distribution companies also, in fact, we are also planning a 40 megawatt and 120 megawatt hour. We have identified a grid, a 33 kV grid. We will have a 40 megawatt storage. And that storage basically will be for mainly energy arbitrage and peak shaving. Because energy arbitrage, though theoretically it is being talked, but it is not yet proven. In Delhi, we did a pilot through GAP, a 20 megawatt, but still it is to be commissioned. So I think once the results of that are seen in terms of energy arbitrage, how much you will save, what is the payback period, that will really motivate the whole fraternity to go for battery storage in the distribution side. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And now coming to the second panel and the discussion with the panelists, Mr. Vikas, Arya and Hiten are here. So the panel was titled as Manufacturing of RE Technologies, Sustainable Supply Chains, Innovation, Circular Economy Practices, Policy and Incentives. That's a very long title. A lot of things wanted to be covered in this. So, so I think enough context has been set for this part of the discussion, especially in the addresses that we heard today afternoon. So I will straight away go to you, Vikas. And what is the favorite topic in the room on the ALMM? So I would like to know your views on ALMM and whether it has served its purpose and the policy objective? The objective with which it started, has it served its purpose? What are your views on that?
I would say it is, a work in progress. So it is something which started. The only challenge is the back and forth by the government created that kind of ripples, during 1 year. But otherwise, as we stand today, the manufacturing capacity has, because of ALMM, has increased substantially in the last 2 years. If we talk about 100 gigawatt of manufacturing of solar modules being reaching very shortly, already 67 gigawatt is there on the ALMM list, and 100 gigawatt is going to reach very shortly. And our demand within India is not more than 30 to 45 gigawatt. So if that 100 gigawatt is operating, it is good enough, more than enough to meet the domestic demand. So at least that thing is taken care of. Now second challenge is on the cell side. Now cell again, we have been discussing, a lot of time it has taken to stabilize, but the technology has been, shifting, graduating from poly to PERC and PERC to TOPCon, TOPCon to we're talking about BC contracts, and it's got a longer gestation period as well as the longer, higher investments. So that is where we are still lacking, but with the moment ALCM has been announced by the government, so you see all the big manufacturers in India of solar modules have announced the cell manufacturing. So ALMM and ALCM has put that pressure or that incentive for the manufacturers to put that investment in India. Had this not been there, so therefore, this manufacturing would not reached where we are today. So today we are in a position, because we have the module manufacturing, so there is a strong reason to have the cell manufacturing. At Jakson, we are very much clear, if we don't get into cell, I will not have any cell to produce where I am going to use these modules for. So I have to go for cell. So by force or by default or by choice. So every manufacturer is going for solar cells. So 2 years down the line, you will see that cell manufacturing is also going to catch up. So during meeting with MNR, this was one of the questions which was raised by manufacturers, why these kind of policies are coming, and he made a very strong and very relative answer, I would say. So he said that these challenges are going to come. We are here to face this challenge. So we have to look what is the ultimate objective of the country. Ultimate objective is we want to ensure that everything is in-house. It cannot happen overnight. It will take time. It will take some strong decisions. There will be, some kind of difficulties from such a segment of people. If you bring ALMM, module manufacturers are happy. If they don't bring, then, developers are happy. So they cannot keep, everybody happy at the same time. Similarly, when this glass duty was announced all of a sudden, so it created a lot of panic. We have all the shipments coming at the port and we are paying duty next day. The cost has increased. So on this also, he said the same thing. So if I did not bring this, then the glass manufacturers have already put a statement that they are going to close down all their factories. So glass manufacturers are already in losses. We have done the study. After a study of 8 months, we have come out with this solution. And it is only for 6 months. Now, the moment this is announced, glass manufacturers are again putting the more investment. So the idea is, the bottleneck is, or the bottom point is that the difference in the cost between China and India. So that has to bridge. So that can only be bridged if we have scale of economics. And scale of economics cannot come till the time these kind of, policies don't come up. So I think it is a good initiative. It has got its challenges also. But if I look at the last 3 years journey, so I feel that it is giving a very positive output overall. Today, the confidence level of the EPC players, of the developers who visit our factories, it's much more higher, which was 3 years back. And as a manufacturers, we are also equally committed to give a product which is, of the world quality. So we are all, learning over the day. We have been, improving day on day. When we started our first manufacturing 2022, and today after, I would say almost 3 years, so a lot of improvements have happened in the processes, the way we have to handle things. And these challenges are going to come in cell line also. It will not be an easy journey. Cells will be much more difficult. But yes, these things are important, these challenges are important for the economy of the country to have self-sufficient, this thing. And at the same time, if you see the cost of power, we talk about, the cost of power has gone up. So let us go through 2020, when we were talking about, this COVID period. The solar module poly were being sold at 18 rupees, that point of time. So today this TOPCon is being sold at 15 rupees, even after all these duties. So it is still 20% lower the price of the module as compared to, COVID period of 2015 or 2020. So overall, if you see the cost of solar, even after all these duties, is still the cheapest. It is not that it has crossed that benchmark, okay, it is now going too high, it is not, sustainable. So it is still sustainable. yes, these duties are having a cost to it, but at the government with this PLI schemes coming up, so I'm very sure, the industry will find its foothold and make it, more competitive. And I can assure today the manufacturing in India is cheaper than China. As far as if you consider the same raw material cost what Indian manufacturers get, what Chinese are getting, if you get the same material cost, the cost of production in India is cheaper. But that is where, we have to look at how we can be cheaper in the raw material availability. If you are able to get that point taken care of, whether it is polysilicon, ingot, wafer, frame, glass, everything is, in-house with that economics, we are able to get a competitive cost. So there's no reason why we should not be competitive in the global world.
So if I understood correctly, Vikas, you meant to say that the cost of conversion of raw material to module is cheaper in India than in China.
Yes, that's because I have been, meeting
I'm sure there were, more years when you said that cost of module. I mean, had you meant that cost of module is cheaper? Just that, the developers would want it to be extended to them. It is cheaper.
Definitely, we want to give a cost price because when I talk to China, when I visited meet them, the cost of, labor in China is not cheaper today. So India is still having a cheaper labor. If you talk about skilled manpower, we talk about. Yes, we have a challenge of skilled manpower in India. So that is where we have to work as an industry. So we do a lot of training. We have a lot of, new joinees groups joining us every year. And that is where, as an industry, you cannot have the trained people from the market. You have to groom them, you have to train them, you have to guide them. And that is how this workforce will come up. And I think MNRE and NICE are working on this thing as well.
Great. Yes, skill development is the key to efficiency in costs, no doubt.
Right.
The next question is to you, Hiten. Vikas touched upon the ALMM. I would like to hear your views whether PLI has been more effective than ALMM in scaling up. And, I have an add-on question. What impact do you see on export of modules?
Yeah, sure. Hi, thanks Shilpa ji, and thanks all the audience for patience and waiting for us. Yeah, I think the PLI is yet to demonstrate performance on the ground. It has been slow in terms of land acquisition and then support from the local agencies. And then also there's been some back and forth, like for us, we were allocated land in Gujarat in Dholera, and then that land was allocated to semiconductor because it was a new sunshine industry, and then we had to take a step back and start scouting at more states and more avenues where we go and make our $500 million of investment. And I think looking at the success that the current regime has found in terms of implementation of ALMM, I think they think it's a natural transition to implement the same set of steps for enforcing Made in India cells as well, which I think it also means that the cells made in India will make effectively all the modules as DCR modules, and which are mighty expensive right now. So like Atulji mentioned, the TopCon module is, let's say, 15 rupees per watt right now, but the DCR module is probably 22 rupees right now. So that's like 70 lakh rupees more on a megawatt basis. And maybe you have Made in India cells coming up, maybe not 107 gigawatt as announced in the press, probably 20-30 gigawatt cells will come up in the next 2-3 years, but that is still not going to be enough to sustain the volume that Pratyush mentioned, that we did like 21 gigawatt of solar last year. So imagine doing 21 or 25 gigawatt solar from August 26 to August 27 with a delta of 70 lakhs a megawatt. Good luck. I mean, I don't see the projects are going to get financed. I don't see the developers are going to have more faith and trust on a Made in India cell, which is probably not even seen like 5 years or 2 years of performance. So it's going to be very compelling and testing times how the developers look at us, local manufacturers for cells and modules, how the lenders are going to look at us, how the labs are going to come up with the results on Made in India cells with Made in India modules. So I think it's a request or an appeal to the entire industry that there needs to be a lot of, how can I say, brotherhood, because be Indian, buy Indian. Allow the module and the cell companies to we have some time to rationalize and stabilize their operations in cell manufacturing, because modules is modules. It's a robotic automatic line. It's done and dusted in 6 months, and you just make a brand and you start selling. But cell is a true process plant. It has a lot of utilities to handle. It is a more environment conscious operations to be handled. And I believe even if as a PLI winner, I think the upside more than the money is only the upside is to have ease of availing provisions to have expat experts, let's say from neighboring countries like China or others. And also it allows us an ability to recruit and hire these people full time because of the provisions under PLI. Because it does appear that there's like 1.5% better returns on when you avail PLI, but this money is going to come like after 5 years of successful commissioning and operations. So that kind of shaves off a lot of NPV. So I think the money is not important as incentives, but it's just the whole push and the ecosystem. And MNRE is very diligent, right? They audit, I mean not audit, but they review the progress every month. So there's really a lot of push to have this setup up and running. But
and the add-on question on the impact on exports. What do you think? How is both the LMM and PLI impacting on the exports of money?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely going to give a boost because of so much ring fencing around China. In the US has already demonstrated that they can curb the inflow of these Chinese modules. And also when China tried to go around and use some neighboring countries and then ship back these modules made in China under a different route, US went ahead and they still enforced more legal binding conditions and restrictions on the Southeast Asian countries as well.
Right.
And I think the border custom protection of US is also becoming more intelligent, more smarter. They are now going way back in terms of traceability. They want to know the coordinates of the cell. They want to see the live video of the mining site, whether it's ethical mining. They want to see the production facilities, whether truly there are any forced labors used or is there any underage child labors used. So all this, which is being ring-fenced around US and is already helping a few of our Indian companies like Vikram, Vari, Adani. I think they have really taken the tough initial the tough, difficult steps and paved the way for new players like us, Jakson, and many more. And I think Europe and Australia and few other countries are also now learning from the US, and they are also looking at ways how they can eliminate or curtail imports of China. And
so it's the reverse actually, if I can understand what you're saying, that it's helping make our systems more robust and more compliant. Vice versa being true also. So
I think it's just the vision has changed. I think the new lines and the new entrepreneurs who are setting up manufacturing, they are not just looking at selling in a particular state or just India. They are now probably having a more international and a more global outreach in terms of what do I need to be like the top 10 or the top 20 manufacturer in the world. And therefore I see a lot of more capex being invested in the new lines, the new automated lines. So I think that is a shift in the Indian module manufacturers or assemblers or Indian module shift.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Hiten. And yes, over to you now for the third panel discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Shilpa. So good evening once again. My name is Hiren Shah. I'm going to moderate the panel 4, which is for energy storage solutions for enhancing grid security and stability towards 100% renewable energy. So to start with, actually, as I spoke earlier, storage is important and necessary as we increase the penetration of renewable energy into the grid. And we all know that renewable sources of energy are green, but they are having seasonal patterns or they're having availability issues. So usually the load has a different pattern as compared to the generation. And that creates a gap and that creates a need for storing the energy and using it as we need it. So load following is what one of the topics that came across. And storage can be one of the good solutions. So before I go to the question, let me first introduce the two panelists, my co-panelists, and welcome them. Mr. T. Rajmohan, CTO of Essar Renewable Limited, on my left. And we have Mr. Daivik Mandavia, who is a project design engineer from Newen Systems, on the extreme right. And I'm in the middle. So my first question is to Mr. T. Rajmohan. How do you see storage finding applications? And it's a follow-up because what we have been talking about. So how do you see storage finding applications in the future grid? If we start from generation to transmission distribution and the way we are consuming the energy at both residential as well as C&I. So how do you see the whole landscape evolving in the future grid?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. It's okay. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity to, in fact, it's very difficult to, because we are at the very fag end of this session, but however, but we are touching upon the very, very important topic, which is actually, more prevalent in the current energy sector. And just I will give some inputs, whatever the question, it is grid storage. Yes, that's one of the topic which is it is thrown upon most of the minds in the last few years. But a few points I wanted to touch upon why this grid storage is very much required. Just as everyone knows that currently we are having the total installed capacity of around 462 gigawatt, and out of which almost around we are crossing that 200 plus gigawatt of renewable capacity, which is mostly uncertain and lot of uncertainty and lot of seasonal variations and CUF factor and of course other issues which is actually affecting its reliability basically. So in continuation of this, if you see in the because of the renewable energy, even at when it was maybe 2-3 years back, almost we were losing almost around 1.5% of the energy generation. It is mostly because of this curtailment, basically because of the transmission constraints, or the grid is not able to take up, or it is over generation and it is not meeting the demand supply gap, or it is a over generation, whatever the reasons. And it's a total, on the total energy generation, 1.5% of the energy is lost, and it is more in the southern region, it is almost more than 3%, right? And so if you have thought of this grid energy storage at that point of time, maybe so we must have met that demand. Currently also we are having a demand of around 250 gigawatt. But however, at the same time, now also we are losing the same type of, this energy, around 2% of energy is getting lost because of this curtailment and because of the transmission constraint. And of course, one more thing, as everyone knows, because of this, very competitive market, in the solar, basically, we are all, oversizing this capacity. Basically, AC-DC ratio now, we were initially, in the range of 1.1, now it is going up to 1.4. So always there is a clipping losses which is almost around 6 to 7%, which is also getting lost in the system, which is not going to be used anywhere. But if you think of this, basically this grid storage by the way of either it is a means battery storage or any other form, maybe a compressed air storage, which is still, apart from that battery energy storage, there are a lot of other technologies, but still there are a lot of, it's a miles to go. But however, because of this battery prices are coming down, which is almost around $120 per kilowatt hour, and all these tenders are in the range of around it is in around 3 rupees per kilowatt hour even with the storage. So that's a best viable alternative to go for the storage. And even best bet is, even if any other tender comes, in the coming years, even if it comes, instead of it is a plain vanilla solar or it's a plain, this wind, it should be along with the storage and should be at the, and it should be co-located along with the renewable energy plants. So, by this way, we can actually, curtail these losses. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. My next question is to Daivik, and this is about a little bit more on the technology. If you can share on the design philosophy and technology side, because I think most of the systems that are currently used are coupled in a certain way to the grid. And when we say a BESS system, when it is getting coupled, so at a 33 kilovolt line or a 66 kilovolt line, or even at a 132 kilovolt line, the most popular one is a AC coupled system. So what is your take on DC coupled systems? Because most of the times the battery is going to be used along with solar.
Yes.
And solar inverters are basically converting DC to AC. So is there some way that whatever we are harnessing from the solar panels, can it be directly stored in the battery and then can be used? So can you throw some light on that?
Yes, thank you, sir, and good evening all. Yes, we can go with the DC coupled. DC coupled means directly we can connect the DC part to the battery. In between there will be the converters. So we can use that one. So the advantage is like we can low harvesting the voltage. We can avoid the clipping losses of the solars. So at the time we can store the energy in the batteries. And again, we can use for that storage in the TOD applications also. So we can also have two types of applications over there with these solar inverters. If we want to go with the solar inverters, and another if we want to run for the small island like microgrid application, then we need to go with the bidirectional inverters. Then also the DC couples is possible.
Is there any improvement in the conversion efficiency or overall system?
Yes. In the AC couple system, we require the two converters. First from the AC to DC, and again from AC to DC for the battery charging. So there will be the two conversion over there from DC solar to the inverters. For example, PV is there. It will convert to AC. Afterward, again to charge the battery, it will from AC to DC. There will be the two conversions, and the efficiency will be the less as compared to DC couple system. And if we are talking about the DC, DC coupled, there is no losses. Only between the DC-DC converter is there. It is only from the convert the high voltage to low voltage as per the battery requirement. So there were minimum losses, we can consider that.
And is there any issue in terms of scalability or scaling for large applications? Because now we are talking about megawatt and 100 megawatt or 500 megawatt scale.
No,
so is there any?
No. There is no issue regarding that. We can, we can do the parallel system also if we want to enhance the power system, that one.
Has your company done any projects on DC coupled systems so far?
Yes, we have implemented Fuse project on this one. We have implemented in the POCs also, in the outside the India also. The applications like for the DC coupled, we have for the EV chargers also, and microgrid application also we have done it.
So, I mean, why it is not popular so far? Because I believe that if, technology-wise, it sounds the right way to use a BESS system, because you are not doing double conversion. You are simply storing the DC from the solar panel into the battery. But why commercially, or why it has not been adopted globally in a large scale?
So, right now.
Okay. Sir, you wanted to say something?
Because I was the one who introduced the solar inverters. So here the challenge could be the size, because I think the solar inverters in the market may not be available beyond 1 megawatt. I'm not sure, because I left ABB 10 years back. So now what is the status? I have not got the update. So that could be one challenge, that for 1 megawatt, if you want for 3 hours battery, then that, connectivity and all that you need to see. Because today, this solar whole thing comes, as I say, in a container, it's a containerized solution. But how will you connect those, maybe hundreds of 1 megawatt or 2 megawatt or 5 megawatt inverters? That could be, Am I right, Vikas? Vikas also was with me that time. So that could be one area where I think maybe some technological interventions can help.
In fact, Hiren is rightly placed to answer this question himself.
Okay. Okay. So, honestly, it's just about the cost. The efficiency definitely improves, round trip efficiency. We save almost around 3.5 to 4% because of the saving on the double conversion. The only issue is that we have to use DC-DC converters. As Sir pointed out, that panels generate voltages in a certain range, and battery containers are now up to 1500 volts. So what happens is we need to use DC-DC converters. And another challenge is that when you have to charge these batteries by any other source, I mean, from solar, of course, it will charge because there's a DC-DC converter and battery will directly get charged. But there are issues when there are generation problems, when solar is not good or solar is not able to generate enough power, then the batteries will not get charged. Right. So there are two challenges. And of course, the DC-DC converter cost is higher than an inverter or a PCS cost. So the cost of DC-DC converter itself is very, very high. We have not, at least I have not seen beyond 500 kilowatt of DC-DC converter. So once the scale and the volume will increase in this direction, maybe in the future we'll see for certain applications.
Right. Thank you for taking that as a question.
Thanks.
Interesting thought.
Indeed. And just to let you know, sir, there are organizations working to develop this power electronics as a product. We've been interacting with some. So that's definitely coming up, and like you rightly said, the demand will drive it. So I have, Hiren, with your permission, I have one question for the module makers. Price prognosis. What do you think is how the pricing is going to look like in near term on the solar cells and modules?
I think it's definitely going on. The prices are definitely on the rise. We've seen cells become expensive by somewhere 1 to 1.2 cents in the last maybe month and a half. The dollar is on the rise, and then China withdrawing a lot of support on incentives to their local manufacturers. So our raw materials have got expensive. There has been duties on aluminium imports as well. There was BCD and then ADD on glass. So need to see what happens on the glass ADD post-May. But net, I believe the modules are going to be somewhere in the range of 16 to 17 rupees probably in the next 2 to 3 months.
Right now, we see the trend on the rise on the upper side because China has already bottomed out, and as we see the balance sheets of all the big manufacturers.
I think your mic needs to be on.
Sorry, I think the China prices have already bottomed out. So the prices of the cell fall like anything in last couple of months. We have seen the prices, dropping down significantly, which is not sustainable. We also understand that. So that is not the manufacturing cost of solar cells or wafers. So I think they have been losing money. I don't know what was the logic behind it. Maybe they have got higher production and lower demand. So that can be one of the reasons. But still, they have done it consistently for a couple of months, those prices. But right now the prices, I remember, in 2022, we were buying cells at 17 cents and paying duty of 20% on that. That was the cost of the cell, solar cell monoperk. Today's cell has come to, it reached around 3.5 cent. Then
That's
5
what
cent.
we hear.
Now it is 5 cent.
Right.
It is around 5 cent. So it is almost 1/3 of the price of the cell which was there 3 years back. But still, we have become used to it that, okay, prices will keep on falling. But it may not happen now. But this year we see some kind of stability. It may not be, very steep rise. But yes, with all these small, tidbits of glass duties, freight cost, some cell cost increasing. So we see it, as he rightly said, we see some slight increase happening on the module price. And on the DCR cell, if it happens, So definitely the cost between DCR and non-DCR is not sustainable. That is not sustainable today. Of course, it is happening because of that PMSY schemes and that government subsidy which is happening, but for the utility scale, I think it will not be workable. But as we have more increase of the production of solar cells in India, so this delta will come down. Still, it will not reach the China prices in the year one. It may take some time to reach close to China prices. But yes, as the production increases, the delta will definitely come down. It will not be 8 or 9 rupees. I'm clear on that. So it will be slightly less than, much more less than that. But right now, that's the challenge is there. We need to have that, keep our eyes and ears open. As you know, as a developer has to see, because we are a developer also. So we are a developer, we are a APC company, we are a model manufacturing. So we see all the three sides of it. And every business has their own challenges. So you have to, keep your eyes and ears open to the market, see what all things are happening. And accordingly, and timely closing of the projects is also important, I think. So once you, decide for a project, you have the timeline, you have the budgets, and those, if you are able to manage the supply chain in that particular budgets and in that timelines, so then it moves on. But anything, going not within that timelines or the prices going haywire, project getting delayed, then it causes a lot of concerns.
Right. Thank you so much, Vikas. And I think we have last 10 minutes for any questions from the audience.
So Shilpa, before that, I have one last question
Oh,
to
I'm so
close
sorry.
my session.
Yeah, please.
Actually, a lot has been talked about in terms of storage, and I think we have also seen in the last 1 year a lot of tenders which have happened, which is a good sign. But having said that, and this is an open question to all the panelists, I'm not throwing any question to anybody else in particular. So we have seen a lot of tenders happen, and I think 5 gigawatt hour have been tendered so far, and another 8 gigawatt hour has been announced, and eventually 18 gigawatt hour is what is planned by March. So the question is that most of these tenders are in the two segments. One is FDRE. We spoke about FDRE, where it's a combination of solar, wind, and battery. Reasonable enough, fair enough. Participants were IPP players with established, experiences and stuff like that. The other one, which was very unique and different, was the standalone battery energy storage, which was very different because it is basically like a बनिए की भाषा में बोलते हैं तो किराए वाला मॉडल. तो आप लगाओ और उसका किराया मिलेगा आपको महीने का. And that is where we saw a lot of disruption happening. Now there was no entry barrier there. There was no entry barrier for participants. All kinds of participants participated in those tenders. And a lot of people who have won those tenders have never even done a renewable energy project, leave aside battery. Battery to bahut dur dur tak. So are we digging a grave for an industry before it actually starts? So this is the concern, and this is the question I'm throwing to all the panelists, that is it a good trend or is it a bad trend, or whether there should be some kind of participation criteria and experience for people who can participate in these kind of tenders.
This is for the EV battery or for storage battery?
The
Storage battery.
tenders.
So, I mean, typically there's GUNL is typically the case, and then followed by SECI. SECI got cancelled, but GUNL is still there. So.
I'm not answering directly to your question, but one thing you need to understand that change is always, we should accept the change, right? If you see the same like this, if you see the green hydrogen market, who are all the players? Everyone who is actually doing the RE, they are only in the green hydrogen market, though they are not having the experience, right? So and even if you see the wind when the wind market, when actually it maybe 10 years back. Who are participating? Mostly even any of the thing who even don't know anything about the, wind turbine blades and, even this substation, they have only participated and they have done the project, in fact, right? So, and now also, so the thing is we need to adapt the change, and that's what I can say, though it may not be a direct answer to your question, but this is what.
Yeah, personally, I feel being involved in the Indian renewable sector for last 12 years, I think there's this inherent need for speed. I mean, we were doing PPAs at like 16, 18 rupees not far back, and the goal was 100 gigawatt, and which we just crossed like last month or so. But the tariffs from 16 have now come down to 2. So I just never could realize the reason why so much value was left on the table by the developers and IPPs in the urge of raking up pipelines of gigawatts, and at the same time in parallel you hear like 40, 45 gigawatts of solar PSAs are not signed. So just don't understand what was really the essence and the value to build and bid a pipeline of multi-gigawatts and still have a lot of gigawatts which is not even sold to the discoms. So to answer your question, I feel it's not good for the sector.
Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Grow business. Transform Gujarat.